Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's Trevor Stockwell here with you today. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a great discussion today because we have Lorelle, who's a meditation and life coach. Lorelle has traveled around the world teaching others, and one of the ways she helps business owners with their expertise is to help them rewire their mindset, letting go of the emotional blocks that hinder their success. I think it sounds really interesting, and I'm looking forward to finding out more. So let's jump in. Welcome, Lorelle Dehnhard.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on this show. And yeah.
You're welcome. Apologies for mispronouncing your surname there. Give us the correct
It's a little bit difficult. Yeah.
Go on.
It's Dehnhard.
Dehnhard. That's right. Sorry. Okay.
Yes.
So for those of
all
you...
good, no problem.
All right. For those out there that maybe don't know Lorelle yet, Lorelle, share a little bit of your background, a bit of your journey that's got you to where you are now.
So I have a background in digital marketing. I studied that in university, and throughout this journey in university, I started exploring the fields of mindset, of meditation and mindfulness, due to realizing the own limitations I had with my mindset and how fast I was progressing and how good I was in certain fields. So I went on a journey of fully diving into books, into knowledge of having like a mentor in like business and also in this term of mindset and meditation. And then after my studies, I was going into the business world, especially in the startup world. And I realized what was lacking in this world. It was this mindfulness, this awareness, this mindset that is changing so much, and that was changing so much in my own world that I could then apply into the startup world. And I realized that it is such a big opportunities for startups and these startups that I worked in, but also for other companies, to really utilize the power of mindset and of meditation and mindfulness to create stronger teams, a stronger company vision, and to ultimately achieve the goals of the company. And then I worked a little bit in startups, and then I decided to go all in and become like fully my own business in that field of coaching people and teams and companies. And I traveled around the world. From Mexico, I lived there a while to teach really business owners that came from New York, from LA. They were going on vacations in Mexico, and to help them to really, in a brief, short amount of time, to really help them change and rewire their mind for relaxation, for mindset shifts, and then ultimately for success. And it had a great impact on them. And since then, I've been helping individuals that are just struggling in their work life, but also companies and teams. And I have had the honor to work with so many amazing individuals and a few teams. And I'm always excited to see how amazing it is to help people utilize this. That is so much inside, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I know what you mean. The thing about mindset is, like, we all see the world differently, don't we? And we've all had different experiences that have shaped our current perceptions. And a lot of the time we have blind spots. We don't necessarily realize that we're kind of living within certain constraints, which we haven't necessarily chosen, but we've adopted one way or another, consciously, subconsciously. Or we've listened to a lot of voices that have told us we're a certain thing, or we're definitely not this is where we should be, this is the type of person we are. A big kind of mix of all sorts of different influences. It's really useful to know that we can change our mindsets. I suppose that's the first thing. Rewiring is a key word, really, isn't it, to help explain how you help business owners kind of change their perspective. What would be how would you explain the mindset issues that you've seen? So by that I mean, is there like a common trend within the clients that you work with where they're all kind of struggling with 2 or 3 specific things, or is it just so diverse that, you know, everybody is unique, but are there common patterns of constraints within the way they see things?
So the pattern I see in people is that they usually had like a big event happening. May it be they lost their job, they had a big failure in their business, or maybe in their private life. And through that failure, they realize that something is off and something needs to change. And this is through my experience of working, especially with individuals and company owners, is that they most of the time don't realize what is in their mind that is maybe preventing them, like what is a limit and how they're maybe blocking themselves when they're in the midst of it. But when they see that their current perception, because you just described it very well, like in mindset, it's perception, it's very individual, is limiting them, they don't realize it in the midst of it. But when they fail with it, they realize it. And the common pattern I see is that a lot of times that failure is the key learning point of our transformation. Like it's the key point where we can grow and we can see what didn't work out before. And this failure, this is also answering your question, manifests in like having expectations they didn't meet with their business, with their numbers, having interpersonal challenges in the workplace, for example, or just not being satisfied with where they are and they're not growing as much as they want to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the things I've learned personally is just how I respond to failure. Like how do I define failure? And how do I respond from it? If I never look at failure as being negative, it's always a opportunity to learn something, to tweak, to change. You've discovered a way that doesn't work, so you get to try something else. I think I've learned over a period of time that that's the best approach. Otherwise, you then, in some ways, your self-esteem gets hit, your confidence, you may close off exploring a certain area because you think, no, I'm not very good at that, or it didn't work, or whatever excuses we make. I'm sharing this partly because I know there's loads of people listening that have all been in similar situations. Like failure is just part of life, isn't it? If we're not failing, are we actually doing anything different? Are we trying anything? You know, are we being kind of explorative in the way we want to build our businesses, or just live our lives really with relationships with others? I think, So I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, by all means, you're more of an expert on this than me, but is that the best way to handle failure? From what you've seen, are there other kind of better responses to maybe unpack it a little bit more about what does failure mean and what can we learn from the whole process?
Failure should in general always be, as we just discussed, an opportunity for growth. It just shows us that in our thinking, in our actions, or in our mindset, or in our emotional response, something was leading us to that failure. So every time we have a failure, it's like a wake-up call to look into the mindset and to look into something that maybe stems from our past, like something we learned in childhood or from our surroundings that was making us perceive things this way so that we fail, right? Because what we believe shapes our actions and how we behave. So I think this is really one of the key things.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's cool. So how would we start to, I guess, once we fail, we then realize, I didn't know that, the reason why it's failed or whatever. And I think we've mentioned kind of blind spots as well. We're all subject to other people see certain things about us we don't necessarily see. But then once, maybe through failure or maybe a mentor, a coach, whatever, somebody else helps us to see, okay, this is what I need to change. I'm listening to the feedback now of what didn't work. I know I need to change something. So what's the process that you help kind of your clients through to maybe rewire or unwire some of the wrong beliefs to start with, and then start to build the way that we want to operate from?
So the very first step would be that when you're in the middle of failure, you're going to look back at what led you to that failure, as we discussed, like what thoughts and mindset. And then you want to explore where you learned it from. Was it something you've experienced? Was it something someone told you? And then you want to really take the steps to remove, I always say, the emotional superglue, because beliefs are always tied to emotions. When we have a belief of, for example, not being able to move forward in our business because if we reach that business goal, something bad might happen. It can never be that good, right? It's too good to be true. When this is our belief, our actions are subconsciously blocking us from moving forward. So the emotional superglue of this belief is fear. What happens? There must be a failure. There must be disappointment. So we have to take the steps to remove this emotional superglue. And one of the best things is to do this with mindfulness and awareness. Like really feel into this emotion that is so strong with that belief. Like, what are you afraid of with that belief? And if that mindset is not there anymore, who would you be without this belief? Who would you be without this mindset? And if you are this way, what bad can happen? And I think a lot of us don't realize the opportunities that are after letting go of beliefs, because they're so much tied to our identity and who we are and how we act. So this would be definitely the next step. And then after removing the superglue and questioning the belief, it would be really important to install another belief that is more helpful. You can ask yourself, okay, it's too good to be true. What would I rather believe? You can then install the belief of, there's always progress. I will always evolve to my best self. I will become better every day. I strive towards success. So these things then help you to really rewire and then automatically also change your actions. So summarizing, becoming mindful of the belief, looking back at the past that caused it, finding out the emotional superglue, what emotion is keeping that belief so tied to your identity. And the very last step is to find out what you would rather believe and then working on installing that.
So it's kind of, digging down and changing the picture that we have of our ideal future or our expected future, I suppose, whether maybe we don't view it as ideal, but what we actually expect at this current point that our future is going to be, because that's kind of the North Star that we're acting and taking steps towards, whether it's conscious or more subconscious, isn't it? That's the inner belief that's drawing us to a certain location. If you don't know where you're heading, it's like change the path, isn't it? Change the destination and approach it slightly differently. So would I be right in thinking then that's the kind of core culprit, if you like? You've got the fear of success, fear of failure, whatever. Fear generally is usually lurking around in the issues that we face one way or another, but also sort of stress, anxiety, those you mentioned about the emotional side of things that can help or hinder. And I'm thinking more like stress, being anxious, being frustrated, all these kind of emotions that we associate with negative feelings or negative responses and behaviors. Is that the best way to handle those? So maybe let's tackle frustration. You got business owners out there, like you say, things haven't gone the way they'd like. They're not where they hoped they would be 6 months, 1 year ago, 5 years ago. And there's frustration there because they're doing everything they know to do, but just not breaking through to where they should be or where they feel they should be or where they want to be. And would you then say that is the route is to try and dig down to why are you frustrated? What's behind the emotion that's causing that feeling?
Yes, definitely. Because I believe when there's no breakthrough, I always say the outside world, like let's say your business, there is a breakthrough lacking in your own internal perception and awareness. And the frustration you feel is actually just a signal that you're frustrated at yourself because you're not realizing what's stopping you. frustration is kind of like a helpless emotion. So I would not necessarily question the frustration. I would just maybe ask one or two questions, but not spend too much time there. I would just ask, why am I frustrated? What am I expecting here? And then really spending time with a 10 to 15-minute mindfulness meditation to just sit with that frustration, to explore it. How does it feel? Where can I feel in my body? And just allow this frustration to be there. You're like observing this emotional glue of this frustration and why it's there. And it's fascinating of doing this work with clients in different fields. It's fascinating how when they're just sitting with that emotion, it just gives so much wisdom, right? I was working with one founder, and he's founding this mentorship platform. And he came to me because he was very stressed. He was like, I want to have a session because I'm stressed. And he was just planning to get rid of his stress. But what we did instead in that session, we were being fully with the stress, with the sensation of stress. And it was a sensation around the heart space. And then just being mindful of it. And then underneath that stress, there was this belief that he's a failure. He will never, ever be this, like he will never, ever have success. So when he was sitting with that stress, it was just a signal of his body that something is wrong. And it was interesting because that stress was originally triggered by a failure in business. A lot of clients canceled the subscription. Then he felt stressed and he was sitting with the stress, but the underlying mindset and belief was, I'm a failure. And I feel like the emotions have so much wisdom. And if we just spend time in these emotions and become aware and mindful of them, they reveal to us what's blocking us.
Okay, yeah, and that's really good. As you're talking about that, I'm kind of thinking through my perception of emotional intelligence in a sense, and it's more the recognizing how I'm feeling and then choosing to change the state, choosing a better way to feel. But I like what you said, because it's almost the step either before that or the first step of that is more acknowledging the emotion. That's the same, but then pausing in it, not kind of rushing from it or trying to change it immediately, but just kind of, like you say, be mindful, analyze it a little bit, kind of stay in that uncomfortable emotion for a moment or two as you think through, what's the root behind this? Because in some ways it's easy to just go and change an emotion by picking up another activity or focusing on something else. But that's not necessarily getting to the root of the problem, is it? And what you're saying is you help clients to just kind of pause, dig down, think about it more.
Because distraction is not solving what is there. Like what you just said about trying to feel good, watching TV, doing something else, it's distraction. But it's not actually solving what is the problem. And I'm a very big fan of going into the problem internally, spending time with it. And interestingly enough, when you spend enough time in that emotion, this is really the key, it automatically changes into a feeling good state. When you spend time in that stress, you automatically have a realization, a revelation, and then from there on you feel relieved and you will feel more motivated again. And this is so much more sustainable than just distracting yourself, going into that emotion, letting yourself be there, being fully present with yourself, acknowledging how you feel, and then letting it, like stepping up yourself. It will automatically happen.
Okay. How does it happen? Just curious. Is there a way you can explain it more, or is it just no, you have to experience it and walk through it yourself kind of thing?
No, it's very easy to explain. So how does it happen? You just spot the emotion in your body. The physical sensations in your body are always your best focus point, because every emotion comes as a physical sensation. Some people feel frustration, for example, as a heaviness on their heart. Some people have neck pain when they have stress or headache. So you want to feel into these emotions, and you just give yourself 10 to 15 minutes, set a timer on your phone, be with that emotion. And how it happens is usually the emotion gets stronger and stronger and stronger and peaks. And when you allow yourself to be present in that peak all the way high, it naturally fades. It naturally goes down and lower. It's like a wave. But we are usually not allowing us to get to this peak of emotion. We're just cutting it off. We're like, no, we cannot feel that bad. But honestly, feeling that bad by yourself in your own home, not being reactive, not being judgmental, just being fully present is the key.
Okay. That's interesting. I think it's fascinating. We're very, in some ways we're complex beings, and in other ways we're actually very simple, aren't we? We do need to keep things as authentic as just as simple as we can, really. I think we can be our own worst enemy by complicating our lives, taking too much on, thinking about too much of the wrong things, or not, as you say, not giving ourselves time to kind of feel the different spectrums of feelings that are triggered by different things, and then get to the root of why is that showing up again, and how can I change it? So that's really good. You do have on your website, you do have like meditations that people can kind of purchase and download, can't you, to just have a quiet 10-15 minutes, whatever the duration will be, to focus specifically on certain things. Tell us a little bit about that. I think that they're really useful to help draw your thinking to a certain place. But
so I'm a very big fan of teaching simple techniques. I'm a very big fan of teaching presence and mindfulness. So on my website, I have different techniques and different meditations for different symptoms of something that is maybe in your mind, that is maybe blocking you. For example, if you feel like you're overeating, then you can practice mindful eating. If you have a problem with frustration, then you can practice maybe a body scan or relaxation, or you feel stressed, then there's mindfulness for stress. But interesting enough, one of the best meditations that has been in the shop is really the letting go meditation, because it's so simple and it's exactly the process I described to you. It's so simple. You download it. It's 10, max 15 minutes. You just do it regularly every day, and you will feel freer and lighter the more you do it. And you can do it with any kinds of emotion, with any kind of issue. You can do it with your private life, with your health and fitness, if there's anything that you're not satisfied with, but especially also with business performance. And because it's such a great technique. And I sometimes feel like in this whole world of self-help and self-improvement, we get lost with concepts. And we make things too complicated. But it's, as you said, we're complex creatures, but in the end, there are simple methods to our complex creatures.
Yeah.
And I feel like we all have this tendency to to make things complicated, but it's oftentimes not needed. And mindfulness and these meditations in the shop just really bring you back to the basics and teach you also the basics, and it trains you.
Sounds good. Yeah, well done. Thank you for doing them. I can see the benefits of those. One thing I'm kind of curious as well, just from your perspective, because you've been doing this for a long time, so you've obviously found a way that works for you. And whilst I'm a big believer that we're all unique, so what works for you might not work for everybody, but there are a lot of just kind of generic things that we can glean from other successful people's lives, I think. So do you have any, maybe one or two just regular habits that you have? You mentioned that daily you do this meditation. Is that like first thing in the morning? Do you do it in the middle of the day, 2 or 3 times a day, or have you mixed it in with other things?
Yeah, I've been, since I started, I was 18 when I started, so it's like very young. Since I started, I've been doing daily meditation for at least 20 minutes. Sometimes it's 15 minutes. I also have to admit, I'm not perfect at this. Sometimes I have days where meditation is bad, I'm impatient too. I do my best to surrender. Then I just do 15 minutes if it's really a struggle. But sometimes when it's a struggle, I also push through and do 20 minutes. But this is really something. I wake up, get ready, and sit down to my meditation, and it just helps me to start my day first correctly, and to stay with my mental clarity, and to also set intentions well. I also have a habit of in the morning just journaling, writing things down, some things I want to achieve, but also just journaling about where I want to go, what I feel is blocking me, because I feel like through writing, we also express ourselves. So it also helps with any blocks or any burdens we have on our shoulders.
Yeah.
And then just taking care of healthy eating, of also really separating business and private life, especially during this time. It's so difficult in times of home office and sitting at home. It's so important to really have fixed times. This is private life, this is business life, this is relaxation. And then also really during the day, doing some practices if I feel like it. But the morning is the most important thing for me.
Yeah. I think you're right. I found that works well for me. Morning, and then just before I go to bed as well, I kind of just take time out to reflect and assess the day to some extent, not a huge amount, but just, based on my values, did I do well? What didn't I do so well? What could I change next time? And just note anything that needs to happen. I think it helps me then. When I hit the sack to go to sleep, my mind is clear.
Yes.
And first thing in the morning, loads of people that are successful have a morning routine. And whilst it is different for different people, you find your own way. I think having the habit of a morning routine, not for the sake of having a habit, but building that into your life, I think is huge, because unless you work nights or something, then the morning is the start of the day, isn't it? Every day's different. Every day's got potential. But if we're primed and we're focused at the start of it, I think we're more likely to make use of the day, more likely to be open to opportunities, and just, be able to help other people around us. We're surrounded by other people, which at some point we can help. So if we're not too focused on ourselves, we can help make the world a better place as well. So, no, interesting. Okay, no, I like that. That's really useful. Thank you for sharing that as well. We are kind of coming to the close of the conversation for today, but before we do, you do some courses as well, don't you? Can you tell us a little bit about what they involve?
So mainly I do private coachings for people, which is just great for anyone who's having an individual challenge in their workplace or in their business, or who's not really able to move forward. I do private coachings that involves what we just discussed. I also do workshops for companies, for teams, in terms of stress management, how to use mindfulness in order to reduce stress, how to increase employee well-being. And I also work for a few companies. Sometimes there are a few one meditation, there's an app where there are some meditations of me, but I suggest if you really want to go to the core, then it would be the website where you can find some meditations, or just ask. I offer a free consultation on my website for anyone who just wants to see if it works together, if they want to have some useful tips, or that's what I offer. And then from there, I usually just see with people what's working.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really good. I know exactly what you mean. The coaching is such a key thing that you have to get the right mix, the right match with people. I think you discern where they're at the right time and whether it's a good fit between you and the individual as well. Yeah, I think you're right. It's not just everyone for everyone, is it? There are certain people that you gravitate to more than others. So.
And there are also some challenges that I honestly cannot help with. So it's very important to have this initial conversation to see if actually my expertise is applicable to them. So I really just feel like that's something that I always love to offer. And it doesn't really matter the outcome. Of course, I'm happy to have a long-term cooperation and work with them. But first and foremost, it matters that they are well and they got something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that you do help teams as well within organizations. So that's remotely, I guess, at the moment. But then you can and do travel, don't you, to different places when restrictions allow us to in the current climate. So
before COVID, I did it a bit more. I was sometimes speaking at festivals, giving workshops to people there, or traveling to private clients. But of course, now it's all remotely, which I'm also happy about. It's not too bad to be around family and friends more.
Yeah. And life coaching is more needed now than ever, I think.
Yes.
We all need help, don't we? From time to time, there are certain things that happen and we just don't necessarily process it right. So there's a time to seek out services from yourselves and others that provide the help that we need. So that's really good. There'll be a link to the website below. Just remind us what the website is. Is it just your name.com?
Yes, it's my full name, just .com, all together, LorelleDehnhard.com.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So everybody listening, as soon as you finish listening to this, if you're able to, jump straight on the website and have a look around, have a look at those meditations, have a look at the things that Lorelle does, and see how she can help you, hopefully. That's the plan, isn't it? Before we do close it off, maybe one more generic question about, so you've been in business for many years now. Share with us, if you're happy to, just what was one of the biggest challenges that you've overcome in your business life to get you to where you are?
The absolute biggest challenge is believing in myself and in what I know and in my capacity to help people, because I feel like you have a certain responsibility when you help people. And if they come to you, they already know that you can help them. And throughout when I just started, I was doubting myself, but then I had to really gain my strength and be like, no, this is very, very important. Like, where did you learn that you're not skilled enough or something? And honestly, what helped so much is just having people giving feedback and having testimonials. I also have a little section of the website where people just wrote testimonials, and this is just emphasizing the new belief I set for myself. But it was really this challenge, yes, because it's also a good challenge, because as soon as you overcome it, you become stronger. Yeah. And imagine I didn't overcome it, I would not help people. So this is also something I really want to share with the listeners. Every challenge you have, on the other side of that negative pain, of these negative emotions, there is a strength. And this is so important. This stress you feel, the frustration you feel, is just a sign for you to grow, a sign for you to figure another strength out that you have. And this is your greatest opportunity. And that's what I say from my perspective and from my experience.
Absolutely. That's really good. I'm not sure I could say anything better to finish the episode with, really. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that statement. It's about being authentic, isn't it? Admitting, we are all on a journey, but the things we've learned, we can then help other people as well. I think that's huge. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for taking the time to share with us today, giving us some of the insights about the things that may be tripping us up or keeping us hemmed in to behaviours that aren't serving our best interests. And as I said, everybody listening, check out Lorelle's website, have a look, see what's going on with that. Follow her on Instagram as well. She's daily or regularly posting on Instagram as well, lots of encouraging tips and things. So follow her, see how she can help you. So that's great. So be proactive, one and all. We believe you can do it. You can make your life better, and then you can make other people's lives better as well. So let's be proactive about that and get the right people around us, the right input in our lives. That's all for me and Lorelle. Thanks for joining us today. We will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yeukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.